Oh, Dallas, we're back with more NECC action.
Yep,
Week
yep.
4 is ready and raring to go. We've got a good selection of matches to start things
Oh,
off
yeah.
here first and foremost. The best division we have here for our Cyan region. It's Fisher Ultra facing off against Winthrop University. And these are big, big teams. And they've got big expectations. And they kind of met them. Fisher sitting 1-1, faced a 0-2 loss against Columbia College. That's
Yep.
rough for them, but Winthrop has also had a mar on their record. They're 2-1. They faced a 2-1 loss against the MBU Spartans just last week, so they're trying to come off of a loss.
Yeah, it's so much fun to watch this league kind of go underway because 9 times out of 10 you'll see these schools, obviously, in types of what we've seen in the Champions Division in previous years, saying, "Oh, these are the ones that are going to wash everybody. They're not really going to have too much competition. They're probably being playoffs guaranteed." But now having this Legends Division, it is an absolute bloodbath. It is so enjoyable to watch. Break out the popcorn. Go ahead. Bring your ponchos ready because blood's going to be going all over the place. I mean, it's an absolute madman fest. And knowing that even then, like Winthrop University, who was the runner-up last year inside of VAL for the entirety of the United States, already going ahead and tarnishing a win here on their record. It's just kind of insane to look at. And the same goes for Fisher, who obviously has invested what feels like everything to build the roster they got.
Yeah, it's going to be a very important matchup today, and it's also going to be another one that we just are really happy to see on broadcast, Dallas.
Yeah.
A lot of the times out of the NECC, you see really good matchups, but you don't always get to see the best of the best, and that's why we're really happy. We have weeks like these, showcases like these, and why we created the extra division on top to make sure the cream of the crop face each other and make sure that they don't have to worry about anybody else out there. And it's honestly, for them, it's kind of, they get the bad end of the stick there, Dallas. They get more practice against the better teams, but they also have to put a much worse record than they usually would have put in the NECC because their competition is just that much more strict. But they got to bite the bullet. They got to play the best of the best because they got to be ready to do so. It's competition for a reason. They got to be ready to have it. Speaking of competition, this competition getting starting up fairly soon. But before we do that or talk about that, we can highlight the players, the teams, and more specifically the maps as well, because those are going to be very important coming into this.
Yeah, so obviously on the side of Winthrop, we're going to be dealing with Nasi, Critical, Gucci, Infiltrator, Renz. A lot of these names you'll know just because, I mean, the roster hasn't really changed at all. Problem is we do have a little bit of a substitution coming in, from what I can tell. So a little bit of a difference from what we're typically used to. Not the biggest deal in the world, though, because I'm considering Winthrop with the resource they have available, the team and the notoriety that's behind them as an organization, the school, in the terms of Valorant, they're going to make sure to have a recruit able to step up to the plate and really hit just as hard as anybody else whenever you kind of make that replacement.
Fisher Ultra up next. Winthrop University has a lot of expectations, like you mentioned, from CVAL in the participation they've had. So it's going to be even more important that they show up here. For the side of Fisher, it's Momiji, Psych, Rex Gator, Gonches, and Javi. A very solid team, but at the same time, it just feels like the impact is different, Dallas, I would say, between the roster we saw from Winthrop. But big names that I remember straight off the bat, Momiji is a huge player that I remember. I was actually extremely excited seeing that they were back on the roster. Gonches, who I've had a couple interactions with on Twitter as well. A really wonderful player, really confident player as well. And you can tell that when an individual is really confident in themselves, how they walk around the place, how they interact with the community online, that gives you a lot of confidence heading into matchups like this. And I think for the mental part of a game, that's going to be very important for the Fisher side. But they are facing off in a 1-1 season where they had to reschedule the week 1 match. They're at much less practice in the NECC in this division. And they're facing off against Winthrop University, who, like you said, seemingly does have that one sub, but they're still a part of Winthrop University's rosters in general. So how different is that truly going to be?
Yeah, you're not even really considered as a part of the group if you're not looking at kind of that top tier player when you're looking at the likes of Winthrop and both these schools, quite frankly. And even as you mentioned, kind of a little bit less practice. Talking about the demigods, their kind of week 1 reschedule. That's a theoretical still up in the air. Seeing how this entire region is going, how this entire league's developing and division has kind of panned out thus far, you can't really guarantee and say, as we mentioned, when it comes to the likes of the Champions Division, say, oh, they'll be sitting at 3-0 or they'll be sitting at 2-0. It's not the biggest deal. That could still be 1-2. That could be 2-1. We're not really sure whether it's going to be an even matchup or not. Even at the end of the day, it may not matter all that much. But already, you saw the maps there for a second. The likes of what we're going to. Bree's going to be, that first hitter up. But even then, Lotus being on the opposite end of the spectrum, and even then kind of bind, all those kind of scenarios that you know and you're kind of used to. A little bit of a collegiate standard, but even then, that deviation we're expected with these top-tier teams.
Yeah, I think Breeze is the one that, usually I joke with you all the time, this is your favorite map, aren't you excited to go here? No longer your favorite. The big change of the map has made it a little bit more, a little too different in a lot of ways, right? But it is it is the standard map now where like teams are stepping into the NECC. I think we've seen it at least once a week. It's starting to fall into the maps that people are more comfortable with, and that makes a lot of sense. It's a lot easier to defend in a lot of ways, but it also makes it fairly easy to attack in certain areas if you take advantage of the map changes that came forward. Boxes stack up over towards pillar and mid. You take a lot of really early shots back towards nest. Nest is even more dangerous when it comes towards the rotate away from elbow because you no longer really have to worry about doors. You have great sightlines elsewhere. Utilize those before peeking just for information. You don't necessarily have to go for kills because you get punished by the box player over towards that pillar side in mid. For Haven, our second map of the day, it's 3-objective map. You're going to pick one of them more likely than not, but you go ahead and pick a little bit more. You go Lotus on top of it. Interesting decision, but again, we're in the highest division. They're going to pick what they want to play, and Lotus tends to be the map where in the lower divisions, one team dominates on it in like a 13-4 scoreline. I think Lotus would be an absolute slugfest.
I think so as well. I mean, Lotus seems like a little bit more of a fun map than what teams are kind of looking to move towards compared to the likes of obviously Haven. Haven is just a little bit tried and true when it comes down to that triple site. These higher teams, they love to go for these triple site maps, but even then, for both of them to remain on the board isn't really isn't all that shocking. We talk about obviously these newer maps that like these teams like to go through and kind of put into their rotation and like to bring into the map pool, and that's why I'm kind of surprised we're not seeing Sunset, but quite frankly, I'm okay with it. I still don't feel like I'm cutting enough to cast that map because of how weird it is. But regardless, we're going ahead and getting breezed it away. We're looking at the compositions that we're dealing with thus far. You can tell that obviously there's a little bit of a interesting setup for both sides. When we're looking at Gucci, I'm loving the Harbor. When we're looking at the likes of Psych, I'm loving the Yoru, and I want to see exactly how they work here.
Ooh, slow moving into the first round over towards the A site. When you're on that prowl, you gotta make sure you don't give away as much information as possible. No longer can you work in through Hall and get an extra angle in towards site, and you have to make some sacrifices in that push to decide whether or not you want to head in through mid, through doors. Mo starts off big. Huge way to get 2 kills, falls off quickly after the fact as Infernosis gets the refrag where needed, but it still is a player disadvantage for Winthrop University, and with that harbor wall dissipating, the engagement has to come through sooner rather than later. Skater down for 2, punishing Infiltrator and Gonches, putting Winthrop University to major disadvantage with just critical all by their lonesome. Did not queue up a second bounce for that dart, hits the wall and detonates, and it leaves only Rex Skater to close out the job. 2 players left, does not matter. A round win for Fisher is what's most important.
I mean, a round win for Rex Skater, better yet. I mean, considering the minority of the start that we're getting into that player, you get a lot of money to go ahead and purchase up that Bulldog with the full armor, so you have an entire kit to work off the back of it even more. So you're already going ahead and putting a pretty darn big dent in the likes of what you got working on there for that null command to come up here soon. So knowing that, say, if that's available for very early on round, when even then something maybe like round 3, where the Bulldog, that's going to turn into a Phantom. And even then better yet, you're going to be denying every single piece of util coming in towards you at the same exact time. You don't really know what you're going to be dishing out just yet, what you're really be dealing with too much, so you want to go ahead and have all these resources under your tool belt as you can. So look at this early emphasis. Once again, already Sight going ahead, getting a pick off. Mo Smart able to go ahead and get one as well. I mean, you're seeing everybody going ahead, making sure to bring this aggression to the field and looking for these early picks to say, look, let's not give up too much information because they're going to be defaulting and they're looking for info of their own to exercise in the next one.
Hold them back as best you can. You know you have the gun advantage. That means distance will be a very appreciable concern for you, but you also need to be very wary of the fact that if you lose guns here, these are credits that you either need to re-engage with in the 3rd round or just, you know, take it on the chin and play for the 4th after the fact. Psych. Great shot to have with the Marshall on to Nasi, another player that we really highlight throughout multiple seasons of the NECC here, Dallas. We're very excited every time we see Nasi on the board. Fortunately, this round did not come up with anything, and it leaves just Gucci all by their lonesome, pressured over towards Cave, running into a corner. The door's got a bit of a lip there, but with Psych finding the final kill where needed. Fisher starting off strong, getting the pistol and the bonus afterwards.
Yeah, so obviously, once again, I mean, look at these teams. We're not really looking at too much of a deviation. We're expecting 2-1 split across the board. Nothing really all that crazy. But even more so, what we're seeing is just a manipulation, once again, of these ultimate points going underway. Not just to like what we saw when it came around to Rex early on with all those kills to work off the back of. But even then, Mo having so much to work with in terms of grabbing those ult points early on the other side of the map. I'm going to kind of go ahead and manipulate that and go ahead and accumulate 5 of their own here in the meantime. I mean, looking at good stances here. Early Viper's going to be able to work with, but even then more so, you're not really going to be able to put it into practice in a round like this. Obviously, full rifles across the board. You're looking to go ahead and stall as much time as possible because you don't have the right guns here to really take this fight, so you want to have as many players here as you can.
Cloudburst to create some distance and cut down sight lens over towards Pillar. Infiltrator will have to send out their second one. Good firefight over towards Psych, but I mean, they got the worst of the situation here. Psych even finds the finishing blow. Down on sight, Spike is attempting to be planted. Russian by Gonchis punishes them though, as Mo steps in for a second, tries to work the flank. Renz denies. Nasi on sight for another one. It's just Gonchis in a 2v1, and a quick flick to Renz denies it, but Nasi, third round victor, third round savior for Winthrop University, a 3K as well, and they will barely hold on to the victory there, and that is a hefty cost for it. And Fisher Ultra have enough money, they can get, hey, Sykescoon him doing pretty dang well. Let's buy an operator to feed the beast.
I told you, man, you better get those ponchos ready, because if you don't around like that where you don't expect too much to really happen, already going ahead and dwindling things down to a singular player by the latter end of the round, that's just really what it comes down to. You're going to see these teams hitting shots no matter what they're really dishing out. It just comes down to having the amount of players there and making sure the trades come through where necessary. So obviously, that Cove going ahead, playing a little bit of a part there, kind of trafficking your prey, but even more so, speaking of trap, I mean, Psych has nowhere to go. You're getting knocked down immediately with that operator. Typically in Ancient, we're not seeing with that gun too much, and maybe off the back of a round like that, you're going to be second guessing whether you want to be doing that again.
Still, right now for Fisher, with that man disadvantage that has been lost, and in such an important operator as well. Technically agent, you can also say operator. There's a lot of tee-hee qualms you can make about which esport it is, considering the weapon that was also lost. And it does force them to go for peaks to try to get that advantage back in their favor. Javi only goes 1 for 1, but Mo holds that corner, gets the kill where needed, but is now pressured from Cave and had picked up a Vandal instead. And a very important decision in a very tumultuous moment gives them a second kill on top, a bit of flavor to the scenario. And now it is Winthrop at a really big loss about how to re-engage in towards sight. That 0 point will have spotted Renz, and they don't have a weapon truly to work with, and the recon bolt comes up dry with no information to it.
Oh my
and the beast is being fed. Mo, 4K in round 4, 5K in round 5. Let's see it happen.
I mean, guys in prime form. I mean, just might as well go ahead and call him Optimus Prime at this point. The way he's transforming his lineups again and again, moving towards the middle of the map with an operator, picking up a Vandal, winning in the same kind of distance of what you'd be expected to towards that A main area of the map. I mean, it doesn't matter what the angles are looking like so far. Mo is in this game and obviously has made a stance and says, look, I'm gonna go ahead and have an early ultimate to work with just to kind of prove it and hit it home if I really so feel like it. So that's gonna work really well. I feel like if you really do want to employ that, look for that early aggression, kind of cut off some of these sight lines, say, look, you're not becoming A main anymore, and you can even see that. You see the double down to the wall, cutting off the middle of the map. A main just going ahead and being choked up, and Psych already grabbing a kill as well. Fisher wanting to have this round dead to rights immediately, even though it's an eco for the side of Winthrop. But they know, as they saw earlier, with Fisher getting that third round nearly, that you don't know what you're up against and you don't want to risk it.
For Winthrop, keep in mind that they have not really had a man advantage at all whatsoever in this series, even in the round that they won in round 3. Fisher got that man advantage because they'd failed to take down Psych, and Psych has been a continuous factor for their success and is a huge proprietor that needs to be taken down early in these rounds, and Winthrop are just failing in those one-on-ones, in those long-distance fights. Pistol round, though, makes a lot of sense. This eco is going to be very dangerous for them. They're trying to bait out a lot for this retake. Nasi over in corner and back, able to take down Javi. Swing from the corner for Psy, can't come up big, is critical, denies the angle of attempt, and Fisher looked like they could be at their wits end against an eco round, and a lot of the players that were felled from Fisher were into the action, were on site, and that means they fed those rifles over to Winthrop, and all losses that they were anticipating in this eco round are nothing but boons to their side. Renz towards Arches may go down, a double swing though will net the final kill, and Winthrop plays that near perfect to take a thrifty.
I mean, as I mentioned earlier, I mean, you really can't go ahead and take too many risks in a map like this. If you can pop an ultimate, you treat every single round like every single person in this game has full guns to work with no matter what. You're going to see at least a purchase come through for at least one of these two of these players to kind of go ahead and buff things out, find the initial pick, go ahead and have that domino effect. Say if I die in the front line with that kill going through, so long as it's not a duelist, it can be recovered by somebody else and still make that impact. And I mean, even then, you'll see that same exact stance of equilibrium on the other side. A weapon dropped is a weapon to be picked up, and you're going to see those resources accumulate once again over the course of a round. So speaking of once again these resources, a Blade Storm's here on the field. Infiltrator, looking to go ahead and kind of push up with that because you don't have too much of an actual purchase coming through again. You're going to be saving that money possibly for a little bit of a warm up on the operator if you are seeing these angles being taken too much, but those angles are going to be down the middle of the map, and that's why we're seeing once again that Winthrop are pushing through. They want to see where these players are looking comfortable and where Fisher's really looking to default.
Gucci rotate over towards Cannon, more so to the B side. There's only one defender actively in control of the situation, with the team having been forced up through mid with no real contention over towards Nest. This will be a free ground for Winthrop to possibly move in through Hall. But like I mentioned, Nest, you don't need to peek down mid anymore. You can hold in specifically for Hall and find a lot of advantages for your roster, but you gotta play smart, and Javi does it beautifully. Gaunch is in for the second kill for their roster. Winthrop, despite the win, are taking major losses, and it's flawless for Fisher. 5 kills, 0 losses. Huge round for them, and Winthrop, after a big win like the round prior, they come up with a nothing burger.
And even then, I mean, you're seeing this back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. That's going ahead and mess with the likes of the, economy for everybody.
Yeah.
You can't really hold on to a gun for too long. You're not accumulating a streak to work with here. It really just comes down to how many players are standing at the end of a round. And obviously, Fisher nailing that in the last one, saying, look, nobody. So let's go ahead, take our upgrades where we can. And this can be our best stance probably for the entirety of the half, I'd say. Sure, we're only sitting at round 7 now, but I mean, even then, that's still 5 more rounds to go. The majority of this has already kind of really passed, and you're looking at everything past this point is where the game really starts to hit heavy, because that 4-2 stance, we could be looking at a 3-3, sure, but when you're already looking at double the likes of rounds accumulated this far for Fisher, and even then, narrow theft to work off of, you're going to know that they're going to be just kind of playing this game a little bit more freely now, a lot more kind of lenient than what we're expecting as this early rounds start to go through. Even then, Reckoning, go ahead and pop the results you got. Problem is, Skater's on site, and this A site's been a menace.
Spotted away out in the back line. It's Mo trying to rotate over. It's not the best angle to work from, and it will not work out for you off the back of the information. But I can see Hunter's Fury popped after there's some intel gained, and it works out here as expected in this division. A 4v4 on site. Spike has gone down, and a bit of information gained off the back of a 0 point sent out by Fisher. Gucci in default over by corner, but Nasi's got the cutaway in between pyramids. Goes down to Psych though, and it really is just the one defending player on site and the two transitioning to tertiary angles. One through doors, and what an angle from Psych to flick over to Critical. Just Rins in a 1v3, but they're a Viper. The snake bites can deny a lot of options, but that will dissipate. They can just stick it for now. Spike Diffuser killed. They have no chance. That's it.
I hate Viper so much. I know Fisher does too. Those kind of scenarios, man. And it's a testament to what we see on likely of any map. You look at the Vipers, you look at the Brimstones, even in the likes of Buying, you're going to be seeing teams like this just go ahead and take whatever rounds they can, because they're not playing jokes, they're not playing games. I mean, this is not a carnival. This is going to be a match at the end of the day, and you need to go ahead and make sure you're locking down whatever you can to have yourself a win at the end of the day. And I mean, still, playing and using whatever you got, just making sure that once that spike is slowed down, you're going to have some players going ahead and allocate to be pushing up, looking for that pressure, holding that site. You get your guys saying, look, we got a Viper in the back of the map, we got snake bites, and we got to have somebody to protect him so he's not really distracted in the meantime. Problem is, nobody's being distracted if Fisher just knocks everything down immediately. Winthrop winning the last round by the actual spike, but Fisher isn't even letting him touch the site.
You try to play in through arches and you pay the price accordingly. Trapwire will be removed, but unfortunately will not stop the onslaught of kills favoring the Fisher side. Gucci, the only one to find success, and a great 2K to their name, but an ace is required of them. And they have 3 more players they'll need to rinse their way through slowly but surely if they want to come away with the win. And Rex Skater on the prowl from the flank, not needed. Just a moment away from the kill themselves. It'll be Javi to secure 5 rounds now to the Fisher side, and what seemed like a great way for them to spring the eco even further in their favor after the last round just falls back in the way again, and they even pick up an operator for their troubles.
I mean, just seeing the stance of this so far, I mean, consider what Winthrop's been bringing to the table. I mean, you can tell that they obviously had themselves a game plan when it comes around to executing on terms of these sites. I mean, They have everything in front of them. They have all the resources necessary. And even on the likes of Breeze, where you see these kind of long-range loadouts, they have themselves the right lineups. I mean, they're working that double control. They're looking to cut off these sight lines, so they kind of bring that pressure in a little bit faster. But it's just not really looking like the opportunity presenting itself. Fisher's just hitting these shots a lot more consistently, and they're just holding their angles so darn perfectly. You're seeing these shots go through. You're seeing these angles being held. They're holding them tight. They're holding them kind of in these tricky spots, and it seems like Winthrop just isn't really too prepared. On a round like this, you can't give them all the hits in the world just because, I mean, they're sitting on an ego, but we had this expectation for them now, considering the thrifties we've seen in the game so far, and these rounds that have gone underway with these kind of half buys. You're expecting these rounds to still look fairly equal, and a round like this, Fisher finally seems like they've gotten the hang of it.
Recon Bolt goes around the corner. Winthrop University will have found their first blood in this round off the back of a Marshall. Can't ask for too much more past that. 0 point to critical keeps them there. They weren't going to get themselves out of it with utility anyways. Though they did get a lot of damage out towards that KO. It will not matter. Rex Skater flicks towards doors, takes down the remaining Winthrop player, and will put themselves up now to an even position at halftime guaranteed, but with 3 rounds left in this half, and Winthrop still at their wits end, Dallas, to figure out what they want to do in these rounds, because they're picking up soft armor. They've got proper rifles, and yes, in this level of play, in this division, armor will not matter. Headshots will hit head no matter what. But you gotta love that comfortability. You gotta love that assurance factor, and they just don't have it.
That's why you're seeing full Vandals across the field. I mean, this is when you really start to see, okay, these are the kinds of games that we know who we're dealing with. I mean, and it, better yet, it also plays on the likes of the map. I talked about these lineups, the kind of distance that you're working with. Vandals, a lot more universal, can do a lot more scenarios and still find success relatively. Phantom is not going to do you too many favors on this map just because of how close you have to be, and you can't guarantee that distance can be close. So already though, the one thing that could kind of close out this round, look for once again that edge. Sure, Winthrop, they had themselves the kits, they had the utility available, they just only had that Viper's Pit and those Seekers available, which are going to be a little bit synergistic when it comes around to the post plant, but for actually getting onto site, Fisher has so much to go ahead and delay you. That dimensional drift is being saved for the Viper's Pit as a counter, as a UAV to go ahead and ping everything out, make sure it gets completely nullified. Hunter's Fury will do that same exact job. Null command. Fisher saving everything just to put Winthrop just stopping their tracks.
Headshot.
Infiltrator, 2 kills now working in through Hall. Wheelie wants to look for another one, can't find it just yet. Amazing flick. But Nasi was just a millisecond faster and steals that 3rd kill in this round. Gucci watching towards Nest. And will remove one more, but it's only the 2nd to last. Left a reswing behind their own wall.
There you go.
The tiniest angle to work with, but Winthrop back into it. A flawless round, and the soft armor they purchased means nothing, as they'll steal an operator, every weapon they could have ever wanted, despite having all 5 Vandals they could have ever needed. And they'll have all the money they need, probably for the remainder of this half at this rate, because they have everything they need in this round, and they'll have plenty of money to buy out for our 12th.
I mean, just seeing this, the way this thing's going, I mean, the one counter Winthrop found inside of that last round. Just go ahead and kill him. We don't even have to worry about post-plan if some of the players are already knocked down. I mean, in the way they kind of executed onto that site, they split up a little bit more towards the middle of the map. They looked for that pressure everywhere else. They went ahead and overwhelmed B rather than just actually executing on top of it, which really just goes ahead and assists that chaos factor for them to go ahead and get the best. And to go ahead and come out with a flawless as well. You could tell they were going and feeling the groove in a round like that. I mean, a good stance would be taking them around like that, even more so they get a little bit more engaged now, working out the neural theft off the back of maybe a singular kill. That's gonna be more of a retake situation where you're trying to keep your Cypher alive. But I mean, the way they're playing this out is just meticulous, and it's so clean to watch. Even though they're at a deficit, as we mentioned earlier, it's still anybody's game. 2 rounds left to go, and I think they still have very large likelihood to go ahead and make sure to even this thing out.
Interesting attempt to work in, trying to find that early peek over towards elbow into Nest. Neither side truly comes away with anything, though. A bit of information gained for Fisher that they left the Viper over towards this side. Transition your Yoru over to the objective and try to play as best you can, and that will work out for them. Momiji on site takes down Renz. Yes, Psych does go down. Momiji collects their 2nd as Javi joins into the firefight. Sitting over towards Cubby, a toxic cloud to bite them away. And 15 HP will not last you long in this series. Gucci has to play their life as best as they can, because Spike is in back of sight, and they only have an operator, which is quite solid, but you are asking to peek into an angle where there is at least a crossfire set up in stone and a flanking KO coming in as well. It's Momiji to secure their 3rd of the round and a 7th round for Fisher.
Nothing you doing there. I mean, you go ahead and count that Cypher camera as another body to deal with, because it's going to be tagging you in the meantime, and whenever you get tagged in an entire league in a division like this, you're saying, all right, I'm as good as dead. Just because everybody can hit their shots, and really the only thing you're cashing in on is saying, look, I have the angle, I have the hold, and I'm able to hit that shot just because of how the jiggles are working, and I mean the peaks. So, I mean, still, Winthrop, it makes sense. You finally hit a threshold where you're saying, look, this is the last round of the half. They got 5 ultimates to work with. We have a singular Viper's Pit. The kits, we're barely going to manage here, as much as we can, at least to our own ability, and even better yet, they've been working extremely well so far. Fisher kind of have us in a headlock here for this first half, and we got to figure out what we can really squeak together. Whether or not we kind of go ahead and stick to the same tried and true, or deviate here, that's a decision that needs to be not only solidified, but better yet, it needs to be executed perfectly just to go ahead and give yourself a little bit better work, because 8-4 of the half, that shows that Fisher's kind of actually just legitimately played this half better rather than the 7-5 where you're saying you can just go ahead and cash it in on the pistol.
Timeout in the last round, a lot of times we'll highlight that as a bit too late of a decision, but I think for Winthrop it makes sense here, Dallas. Especially when you consider that they want to slow down the momentum as best they can. They don't want Fisher coming off of a really quick and successive dominating half where they're now up 7-4, possibly even going 8-4 should this round go in their favor. They don't want that momentum to carry over as easily as it could have had they not called that timeout, because they already won the pistol in the first half. Chances are they've got a 60-70% chance they'll win the pistol in the second, because they already have that experience. They already have the knowledge of how Winthrop like to play for their passivity, and the question is, how much did they truly see when they were getting pushed into? Pushed in, coming over towards that B side though. Arches will be very dangerous. The Tasmanian Tiger around the corner. Infiltrator though, right down the rip. Van under the head of Gauntches, and sights will be taken for Winthrop University, and Gucci will put down this spike, putting Fisher in a very uncomfortable position.
I mean, yeah, just exactly where they want him, quite frankly, for the likes of Winthrop. Perfect positioning, you get that spike down. That's all you had to do. That's what that timeout was for, quite frankly, if we're being real. That's all you got to do is play out that one ultimate Viper, be passive, stay alive, and then we can go ahead and work in the rest of the round from there. Problem is, you're looking to like the side. Nothing but a ghost in hand, but everybody else is going ahead and kind of doing whatever damage they can, and with Winthrop just going ahead and running through this ultimate, they quite frankly couldn't care less. But when you only got Psych in a 1v2, and you still got a lot of green surrounding you, you can't quite frankly see your target, so better you just can't shoot them. So 5th round to work with for Winthrop is just a massive stance considering what they were dealing with so far, and that shows that the timeout was well invested. They made sure that timing was already made. You said it was a little bit kind of odd for a lot of teams, but even then, we also just kind of doubled down on the fact it was perfect of a scenario for them. They had so much leeway for that half. They said, look, we still have a chance to go ahead and even this thing up, and if the momentum's working in our favor, don't stall it. That'll make Fisher go ahead and cast theirs out. But ours, we invest it to the best of our ability, and we get around to work with. So already now swapping things up, going onto the defensive side of the map, getting these angles to work with. It comes down to the aggression that we see coming out of Fisher, because they don't have a jet. They have the Yoru, and that's going to be a little bit more awkward, I'd say, because the problem is, if you don't see teams really work off him correctly, he's going to be isolated. It's not like Jet, where you just kind of close a little bit of the distance, or Raze, where you just kind of go ahead and take a hop or two. This is Yoru, who can get all the way back into spawn and just literally be on his own island, but that's not too much of a problem when you already see him close out of the game, finding a trade in the meantime.
1-for-1's not the worst case scenario, but for the defense, it very well may be, as a lot of information has been given for players on that B site, and you have the freedom on the attack to transition to an opposing site. There goes Momiji, down for 1. It's Gucci, an infiltrator, who made that rotate very swiftly from B over towards A. Will pay the price. They extend it up onto heaven with no information behind it. It's a pistol round, but makes some jump peaks, makes some attempts to do so safely, but it doesn't work out. Winthrop, they clear out the 0 point. That guarantees 1 player is there, but where is the second? It leaves Renz in an unknown angle, but despite that unknown factor, they got spotted away just short of wall, and it will be a very dominating Fisher pistol round win for the second half. And like I said, they had the precedent in the first, and they repeat it for the second.
You know why I love Bree specifically? Is purely because of these lineups. The amount of distance that you're working with, close quarters ballistics isn't really too much of a factor on a map like this, and even then, that's why you see Marshals being so prominent on kind of these budget rounds. Same thing with the Guardian. Their prominence is just as important as anything else of the likes of a Vandal. Even then, it feels better than the Phantom 9 times out of 10. You see that the positioning comes down to it more than anything else. I mean, on the map of Bind, on a pistol round, you have the Ghost. You're getting close enough where you have a one-shot headshot anywhere. Problem is on Breeze, that map is so long, you will find these encounters where you have to double down on these shots. You're going to have 2 players to match up that one, ensure that you have a definitive lead, and you are going ahead and manipulating that fact. Problem is in that last round, you saw it go underway, you saw it being executed, you saw it being just kind of played off of there for the back of Fisher, and they are just actually closing out the game just because of that fact alone. Well, Winthrop, good stance for them. They're keeping themselves in this. They found themselves a good first half to play off the back of, but problem is, they got to find some kills in this round, and quite frankly, it doesn't seem like they're going to do nearly as good as what we saw in that last half.
Flash being prepared around the corner of this toxic screen. Winthrop get their first blood finally here in the round, but Momiji, watching the same angle that Winthrop were walking on their attacking side, falls short in between pyramids, and it's just a house of cards here, Dallas. A set of dominoes falling into place. Fisher will take the second round in a much less dominating way than they did in that first half, but they had to push into the home ground, the proving ground of Winthrop, so the losses are expected, and they're still going to force up, seemingly at least to a bit, to get this second round with proper weapons, because they are expecting Winthrop not to come out with full armor, and that is exactly the case. It's the same thing we saw in round 9, Vandals and soft armor, and that is the best case scenario for Fisher when they're rocking not go-to rifles that are always going to headshot, one-shot kill.
I mean, just still. Third round underway. Gotta see what you're working with here. And even though knowing now the guns are here to work with for the likes of Winthrop, there is a chance for them to go ahead and kind of pick these things off. But you can't let that same thing happen as what happened in the last one. Every single player getting cut off for one. You can't have these hero plays saving your rear on a round where you're supposed to have somewhat of a definitive lead. At least 2, 3 players standing at the end of it to carry over those guns to the next round, because you can't be working off that domino effect. You don't have that much trust in your teammates. You'd be sacrificing your gun if your body isn't on the line before it. So still, a little bit of an execution come onto the A site. You got to push it from that main area, and Yora's leading the charge. Meanwhile, the rest of the team's getting slaughtered towards gates.
This is not a good spot for Winthrop to be in. They have to make up some space, and they do so well. Critical and Gucci comboing for a piece. And it leaves just Momiji all by their lonesome in a 1v2. Both players moving in from defensive spawn just behind short stack. They are able to isolate Renz, but Momiji succumbs to the pressure, Dallas, something that is non-characteristic to this individual, but it will not matter. Winthrop will survive the third round despite the problems that occurred, but they lost a lot in the process, and this fourth round will be a bigger question in the air, as Fisher will have full armor, full utility, and the best weapons they could possibly be asking to bring to the table.
And they got to save him as well. We talk about that double-digit checkpoint chokehold scenario, and I'm going to go ahead and cash on talking about it right now. Not because I believe Fisher's going to win this round, but it's because I believe they need to if they want to go ahead and cross that threshold pretty quickly. You can't have nothing to work with. You can't say, let's just stretch it, kind of get to this area and set it as a little bit of a checkpoint and get a little complacent, because we already see that come in passively more times than not when it comes around to that state of the game. So looking at Fisher, they're taking an early investment for the ultimate, seeing if that dimensional drift will do anything, but quite frankly, it just found space, and that's it. And even then, it may not be able to cash in all that well, considering that so many players have already just been knocked down, and these shots are going to continue to just rain true to knock down 3, 4, and a 5th underway inevitably.
Yeah, Momiji's in a very tough spot. The snake bites. Maybe the only thing that could save them any sort of space. But the harbor walls make it nearly impossible to get that free angle they're hoping to work from. Momiji flanked in from A main, A lobby. And the round will be defused in one by Winthrop, with plenty of time on the board. They failed to replicate the Winthrop winning round strategy that came out of their own Viper snake bite. And because of that, it'll be a round stolen and denied for that double-digit chokehold or checkpoint, as we coin it. And it's going to be a round closer for Winthrop University, which is something they're really trying to get back into this game with. And defensively, Breeze is a huge way for a team to get a lead. It's the same way Fisher did in the first half.
And even then, I mean, just kind of by the margin that really happens, especially when you see a comeback start to surmount, that kind of drains you out for the rest of the series. I'm not really expecting that too much from these two teams, knowing the kind of caliber they play at, and they're probably more than accustomed to it at this point, knowing the kind of series back to back they've kind of worked with before. I mean, as we got kind of in the back here, we've heard that, I mean, every single one of these Fisher teams in the Legend Division was part of the Red Bull Campus Clutch Regionals. And you and I, casting one of those, we know what these teams are made of. We know what they can surmount to. We know the potential of each of these squads. And I mean, these comebacks don't really mess with too many people, but knowing that it's early on in the season and you still got to go ahead and find some equilibrium. Better yet for Fisher, who already has a tarnish on their record and can still go ahead and have to play those later on, you got to cash in pretty early, and we're seeing at least do it done on a round like this.
Hunter's Fury goes out. It comes up pretty big. An evening frag off the back of the ultimate. If you're using a huge piece of utility like that, you want to find impact afterwards. And it's a very nice way to do so. Infiltrator round the corner of elbow does take down Psych, and Renz even removes Rexcator, but Javi gets their comeuppance. And they're now the only player left standing in a 1v3. Shots singing towards them from Arches. A shock dart to secure them away from that cubby. With only a Bulldog, Javi is going to have a lot of problems engaging in towards sight. They'll need to scope in quickly. The shock dart, 5 HP. It will not matter. Critical over kills and secures with the shock dart. And Winthrop are now just one round away, Dallas, from tying things up after a very rough back and forth first half at 9-9.
I love these scenarios, man. I love it when I see these teams. I mean, honestly, at a point like this, it's not even too much of a comeback. It's just more of a determining factor. Whenever you see the likes of Winthrop, when they see a team that's ahead, they say, honestly, that's kind of annoying. We shouldn't be in a scenario like this. We got to make sure that this is at least close at the end of the day, and you just see them kick into high gear, win these rounds over and over and over again. It's so impressive to watch, knowing that even then, it seems like they've had that missing ingredient the entire time, and anger was the best thing for them. So, I mean, they're able to go ahead and look good here, go ahead and find these initial picks over and over again, but once again, they're on the defense, which kind of feels favorable in the map like this, on Breeze. I talk about those angles and how important they are. You got to hold them out, which really just incentivizes Fisher to say, we need to throw that much more utility at the problem if we really want to overwhelm a site.
Here.
Gosh, this will swing initially over towards elbow, try to make sure nobody in the defense for Winthrop is pressuring towards Nest. That was something that Fisher took a lot of advantage of in terms of space on their defense, and Winthrop have not done a lot of that so far. Early peaks in round 2, had a little bit of pressure there in round 3, but mostly have been prowling for control towards A lobby and B main. That's where they found all their success here in this round. 3 players gone off the back of a rotate, and the pressure from Fisher in towards sight has now fallen short just the same. 2 losses for Winthrop, but a major win nonetheless. 9-9 acquired and 1 round away from both teams of that double-digit margin, and as Fisher have been gate kept before they even reached the point.
Over and over and over again. I mean, we're seeing once again, I mean, Winthrop, it took them a little bit, but they're starting to hit their form. I mean, those first couple rounds, we can just kind of scratch them the entire first half. Now that they're on the defense, it seems like they're really starting to hit their strides here, which is kind of impressive to see, considering that it seems like their sides are kind of set up for the attacking more. Defense, you have to react a little bit more so, and quite frankly, your entire composition doesn't really work into it all that well. But I mean, when you got the likes of a Jet, she's a heck of a lot better off than the likes of the Yoru. So, I mean, you're starting to see that coming her way, especially with that buy now available. That player now getting 2 kills. Infiltrator is here to play.
Psych only has that Marshall, but once the ult orb, and that's going to be a lot of the point of contention for Fisher in this round. They know they're facing an inevitable loss, Dallas. Psych's at 3 HP. They come into this with an eco in the first place. They don't have much to their name. Take the battle for the ultimate orbs. Get those counted and tallied up. You're already going to get pips from the losses of life in the first place. If you can squeak a kill, you'll get an extra pip on top. It's icing to the proverbial cake. And Fisher have theoretically won the round in their own position, what they were working for off the back of that. But the round is still going to be a loss on the stat sheet, on the leaderboard, as Winthrop are now in a 5 versus 1 against Psych, who had already taken a major lick of damage. That's not 100 HP you see in the top left, Dallas. That is 3 HP. A sliver so small you could misconstrue it as being full HP. And Winthrop will make sure that they will not let any HP remain. They'll go down, and a flawless round for Winthrop will put them up to 10.
And there it is. Finally. We knew it was coming. Let's be real. I mean, if you've seen these games kind of unfold before, you knew the timeout was coming through, but even more so. I'm a little bit surprised it took Fisher this long, quite frankly. Knowing, I mean, it felt inevitable to a certain extent. Winthrop has been hitting their strides. They've been finding their momentum, and they've been making it really heavy hitting at the end of the night. But I mean, consider that now, Fisher, you got these 5 ultimates to work with. You can't kind of play the chaos card. You can't throw them all at once. They're going to be investing in a lot of these, I feel, in a round like this, just to go ahead and kind of even the odds and make sure they can kind of hit that tie. But knowing that you're going to be taking a big investment like that, you're hoping you can find some early kills. And I think that's kind of what they're doing, is setting up, talking at these initial default setups, seeing where they can at least find one, and then make sure just kind of play the numbers off the back of that while kind of looking for this hybrid to deal with these ultimates kind of being skewed in, just woven as a part of the process, because you can't invest too many of these knowing that Winthrop is going to be having a couple of these coming up on their own as well, and they're going to do that to hit towards the end. They want that to kind of be the first leg in the race of those last 3 rounds. This is the final countdown for them, and you have to look for a way to kind of go ahead and cut them off their own tempo.
Timeout's going to be a very important thing for Fisher, not just to get the game under control, to slow down Winthrop, but the talking with the team purely on the mental standpoint. 5 in a row, when you are considered one of the best teams in the nation in the collegiate scene, is something that is going to hurt the mental, chalk the idea of what you're trying to put forward, and it's going to make a lot of things more difficult. The Oro in through mid, working through doors. That's the dimensional drift to gather information. Renz will be spotted, does get a little bit of information about it being there, but needs to stay focused towards arches, and will stay that way for now. Snakebite around the corner. Viper's pit will go online. This is a beautiful spot for Fisher to be in, using 2 ultimates already, but guaranteeing a spike plant and guaranteeing control of the objective. And they'll send a 3rd downfield.
Delay.
The information is perfect. Rexgator takes the kill where needed. Renz has to refrag it, and it's a 4-on-4 on site, Dallas.
I mean, with no Yoru, you got no dimensional drift. You have no real counter to this Viper's pit. You see the timer just taken down. You need that early plant to go off. You got to just go ahead and delay. And Fisher has done a great job of that. It doesn't matter if everybody gets stuck down. It comes down to Javi, and you got seconds remaining. And, well, just in the nick of time, Winthrop's able to close that thing out and get the spike going off. So, perfect execution for them, almost for the circumstance that was given. That was very rough of a spot, and you knew you were going to be taking a lot of sacrifices in the meantime. But to come out with 2 at the end of it, and knowing you shut down Fisher with that timeout they just took, you're saying, look, where'd the timeout go? We appreciate your time, and, well, we're going to take that one for our own.
You got Papa Reckoning to counteract what's going on. It's a very good strategy. Honestly, Harbor, yeah, not as good as the Yoru Dimensional Drift for a counter to the Viper's Pit, but Reckoning creates a lot of opportunities in that space, and it makes it very easy for your team to transition into that, I would say, boxing ring of an area that Viper's Pit wields, and hopefully no one for the side there of Winthrop and that retaker colorblind, because I know for a fact I can never find kills within it. Can't imagine what it's like actually in the engagement. It's actually being able to see something, but it's pretty darn hard, I'm sure. 5v5 in this next round. Fisher, yeah, I don't know what they really have next to them. That was 3, nearly 4 ultimates in that last run they used. They held back, but they'll use their 4th in this round. The no command pot for Fisher, trying to zone and cordon off Winthrop as best as they possibly can. And Renz, maybe a little overzealous after the 3K from last round, will pay the price. And Psych already has a 3K of their own here in this.
It feels like again and again and again. I mean, good openings from both sides, but that's what it comes down to. Who finds its initial, not only first bloods, it feels like every single round. We haven't sound a little bit of a initial exchange. It always feels like an initial string because we're seeing 2, 3 kills go off for one side, and it feels like the round's kind of settled before it even starts, quite frankly. We don't see these kind of down and dirty engagements going off. We see these players rushing aside, or we see these angles being held, and it doesn't really feel like there's a way to break that, because quite frankly, if you look at the VOD, you kind of go back and review these things, there hasn't been too many rotations. It's been hitting a site, and it's been committing to it to the end, because, well, these teams, I don't know if it comes down to these league days where they just kind of say, all right, there's not, you know, $1 trillion on the line. This isn't Valorant or Riot Games specifically we're dealing with, so we just kind of make the game go by fast. It doesn't really matter all that much, but quite frankly, I feel like it's more of a death sentence when you're on that attacking side and things don't work out for you. You got to explore some other options here.
Yeah, the A side's been working for Fisher, but something else has to work. Something else needs to be at the other end of the stick. They've got this one strong arm towards A, but they need to have a left arm that matches. You don't go to the gym and just do curls for the right arm. You don't just do one side of your leg extensions. You got to evenly work the body. And right now, Fisher have been doing everything but way too strong to one end. And yes, it has continuously come up with very high success. And even so, in this round, they managed to move and force Winthrop away from the A objective with that kill to the backside of B. But only time will be the ultimate decider for success. Infiltrator will be forced to rotate further back away towards pyramids. The operator out, quick flick over, but it just can't connect. And Winthrop need to find success very swiftly here. Owljohn around the corner. Infiltrator spotted and tagged. Psych. How do they already have the dimensional drift back online? And they're using it somewhat well for information into the flank of A, but it's just not enough. They'll have to go guns up, and they get 2 for their troubles.
I mean, not even looking at the flank, you're looking at the pressure. You brought it over there towards the outside of A. You know the players are going ahead and backing up off the back of it, and you're saying, look, that's a Viper's wall that's up. Go ahead and push to the adder on the side. Go ahead and help people. But Infiltrator does not care. Blade Storm available, Operator to work with. You gotta look at that exchange. The right click doesn't go off for the kill, and neither does the shorty. You have two separate sources of damage going off there, but when one whiffs and one barely hits, that's not a round that you're working with at the end of the day. I mean, it was a hero play worth the shot, and it's all you had to work with. But quite frankly, Fisher to close that thing out. We're looking at this game going shorter and shorter and shorter, getting closer and closer and closer. And with the backup, we now see that second defensive timeout coming through for Winthrop. They want to make sure that, oh, Nelly, things are looking a little bit tough here, knowing that they had a very, very impressive streak. You see it there. It was 5-6 rounds they were dealing with over and over again now. Fisher needs to have that chance of their own, and if it's right here, you can't make sure it feels unstoppable.
When you're on a big recurrence of rounds and you're starting to find things back in your favor, it is an ultimate battle to guess where Winthrop are currently lying in wait. How's their eco situation? What do they bring in last round? What do you think they may have for ultimates? And how do we want to decide to push through here? And how do we want to think about how to make up for our shortcomings on that B side? Keep in mind, Dallas, this is just a 2-objective map, where we've seen Fisher only succeed on the A sites, and they're now expecting to head into Haven, a 3-objective map, and not do the exact same thing. To move over to a 3rd map, should it be required, do the exact same thing in a 3-objective map? Fisher need to come up with a solution between now, the break between map 1 and 2, and the beginning of map 2, and I think they need to do it here. If Fisher want a chance in this series, they need to start with a 1-0 scoreline over Winthrop.
I mean, of course, we're entering the ending stages here of this map. I mean, 11-11 for next 2 rounds, take it. Or even 1-1, obviously going into overtime, we could be stuck in purgatory for all we care. But as it stands, I mean, you got to make the difference in the tempo. You got to make that change up. And finally, it seems like Winthrop, they're not going ahead and taking the fight anymore. Off the back of the timeout, you're expecting a curveball, and sometimes you're not. I mean, it really comes down to reading these VODs and knowing the kind of situation that you're dealing with off the back of a little bit of a stall. But Winthrop taking the fight, bringing a little bit more aggression. The fact you can even find a kill off the back of that and even exchange over towards that B site, it's good looking because that's what the spike is. And quite frankly, it's free.
Great shots connecting for Gonchis. Fisher now have control of the B objective. They've actually gotten the success they were needing and even cutting off the flank. Beautiful play from Javi to lie in wait towards cannon, towards window, and take down a much-needed member for the side of Winthrop on this retake. Shock dart to the back flanking of sight. Recon bolt as well, and Critical gets their 1-for-1 trade, putting this a very easy spot for Nasi. They cut down the single one they needed on site. Seekers up and over, and the ultimate, the Fury, round the side, and the Seekers thought they had their own level of stall. It will not matter. They've stuck it to half. They get the kill!
My God!
Nasty! And a 12 stat line for match point gain for the defense of Winthrop first.
You gotta love the commitment too, right? Saying, I mean, I gotta get a half here, quite frankly, anyways. I mean, if I go ahead and stick it later on, it's not gonna happen. I can't play this game of ring around the rosy all day where you just kind of go ahead and just blew me a little bit. You need to go ahead and just commit to the spike. Get it towards half, wait for the swing to come off. The dude heard the tap, and knowing that recon dart was there, he's gonna swing off the back of it. He knows that that's the scenario where you're saying, I'm either looking down lines and I'm looking to get that kill, or I'm turning around. This is the perfect opportunity to make the swing on the attacking side. And Nasty was having none of it. Was having absolutely none of it. I love the preparation there, the decision making, and more importantly, that one tap to go down range. So clean kills there, clean round to work with. Off the back of that timeout, Winthrop seems like they've made their case in this game, winning not only after Fisher's timeout, but their own. That's 2 rounds that have set them ahead to be on that point.
Hunted Fury going out as well, gets some damage out, doesn't find a kill that they were necessarily hoping for, but success is success. The issue is A site was just a lure, was a false prodigy. Doesn't work out for them. They're on B site, and Fisher are starting to get the idea of planting the spike, but Rins is still there. Takes down Gonchis. It evens up for just a moment, but with Momiji evening things out, getting the man advantage back for Fisher. It's going to be a very difficult hold for this site with Winthrop barreling down in towards the objective. 1 from Arches, 1 from Hall, and the Arches players already found a much needed kill to equal things out 2-2. Psych, flash waiting over the top, Owl drone. This has come up noticeably dry here, Dallas. They've got no active information off of this. This will be a hard place to come back from, and Psych was able to secure Critical off a much needed flash over the top. putting just Gucci in a 1v2,
Oh.
able to get the first, but
Nah.
Fisher will guarantee OT with Sykes' frag.
Going again. I mean, I talked about purgatory, and quite frankly, I had a hunch we were going to be stuck in there regardless. But I mean, stuck isn't the right word, excuse me. Enjoying would be a better one. Knowing that, I mean, these two teams and how they matched each other, especially after those last couple rounds, I don't know if we're going to see the back and forth that we've been kind of seeing, obviously, to get to this point. Knowing that even then, you look at those last couple rounds, look at that strand of 6 in a row there from Winthrop. And Fisher hasn't reached that same level of consistency just yet. They found themselves 2, and that's all you need. But you got to make sure to kind of do that a little more, I don't know, a little quicker, knowing that we're now in a scenario where you don't have the time to really mess up too much. You got to have that back and forth, and over nails at first is really going to go ahead and close things out. And Winthrop, I'm not putting any coins on them. Trust. I'm not kind of betting on anybody just yet. I'm not looking at any favoritisms. I'm just kind of looking at the scores to see what they've accomplished thus far and kind of looking forward to what could be next. So Fisher, looking at a pretty good stance there to get that first blow, but with a very even exchange. You already know where the spike is kind of leaning towards. You're already seeing these players looking to make kind of semi-rotations and look for that pressure to where you're saying, look, we take over the middle of the map, kind of force them to one side of the map or the other, and then make a decision from there. Let's not give them mid-control. Let's not let them kind of be able to go ahead and take us from any angle that they want. We need to lock them towards one half, and quite frankly, you can already see it. Sight going ahead and backing up towards that spawn a little bit, setting up that TP across the map and saying, look, if things happen and go south, I'm thinking they're going to go B, and that's why I'm throwing the TP over there. But if they come A, it better be fast enough where I can be here for it before it goes off, so I can hit that TP if I know it hits a last-second circumstance.
Umiji with a player holding back of Arches. With your Cypher in deep pit of B. Arches will be in a very tough spot with this toxic screen going up, especially with Umiji's loss of a life. Nasi, a quick flick over. Makes things hard for Fisher now defensively. Guiding light around the corner. Gonches still gets the kill to Nasi. A wonderful flick to go! A 3K almost finds the 4th. But Winthrop, we're at a major advantage and have now acquiesced all of that control, putting Fisher in a prime opportunity to go up in OT, and Psych will guarantee it. 2 players remaining, does not matter. Gonches saves face in the back of B, in the face of adversity, and Fisher will move up to 13.
All odds against them. We're better yet, just what feels like an entire team. Still coming out with 3, though. Hey, I did my job, baby. That's the majority of them down. You just got to find a retake, because if you screw this up, I'm going to be livid. And that's all it really comes down to. It's execution, then. You're playing numbers. You're saying, all right, he did it for us. He closed up shop. And quite frankly, that's exactly what he did. So, I mean, Fisher, if there was going to be time to do it, that hero play was going to be it. Already, we've seen the attacking side from Fisher. Wasn't the hottest in the world. This is where we only saw them accumulate 2. But hey, thank goodness, you only need 1. You don't need 6.
Javi prepping a recon bolt over the top to go through mid. Does manage to find an individual. They're really trying to hold on for as best they can. Gonches fighting for their life against nothing but util against them. They are struggling there for a moment. Got that in 4K, though it's only 1080p. Don't worry about it too much. Ren's around the corner, the backside of B, takes down Psych. Spike, though, has gone down, but Fisher, they don't really have a dog in this fight. It's 2 players left, and Infiltrator went absolutely brutal in this round. 3 kills to their own, and flawless for the whole roster. They'll tie things up 13-13. It will repeat OT once again.
Sometimes we like to say that not all heroes wear capes, and sometimes we like to say that capes are a terrible, costume design for heroes because, well, they can get you in trouble. And, well, Winthrop says we don't run them at all. We don't have heroes. We have players. Every single one of us shows up in our own regard, and we look once again for equilibrium. And that's exactly what they did. When everybody else goes ahead and pitches in their own points, we see that it's a flawless run across the board. And I talked about it. That was the half. They found themselves 6 consecutively. So we know that they found themselves a working formula in that half, and that only sometimes you can kind of go ahead and shut it down. So, I mean, hey, if Fisher has themselves those hero plays over and over again and can just kind of lock in this defensive side of the map and never let it happen, sure, you can keep Winthrop at a stalemate. You can keep him in this scenario that Purgatory we mentioned. We can go ahead and guarantee that. But that's not what you want to do. You want to close it up. You got to figure out what's going on here. And with Fisher, once again, getting that defensive side, the defense is just going to roll through this game, quite frankly. It is going to come down to the attacking half, and we already knew that coming into this.
Nasi gets a quick flick over the head of Psych. Unfortunately, Gotcha's round the corner. We know what this player can do, but it will not keep them at bay for too much longer. So rotate in through mid. The Viper and Viper duels, the one I think is going to be the more important factor for success for the push for Winthrop. But they're just baiting out time, and Ren's able to secure a long shot to Conscious, gives away their position, but a Toxic Cloud may open up some opportunities if it wasn't for the fact that Momiji himself can sneak it through and get the headshot where needed. Ooh. Blind, but not out. And it's a 2v2 once again on site with Spike just moments away from going down, and Nasi will be the person to plant it. And what is your Sova doing? They're away from the objective. They've rotated away. They wanted to kill their own, and they get it. And it's a 2v1.
Down to Rexgator, the one who's able to hold a site, but quite frankly, not really the best when it comes down to retaking one. And kind of odd considering you're working on a KO, but at the end of the day, comes into the attacking side once again. When is it going to be closed out? Winthrop, this is their shot to be taken. I mean, once again, on the defense side of the map, every single time it feels like they're looking good here, and Fisher is well aware of that. Going ahead and cashing their timeout, quite frankly, you can't blame them, because this is a situation where it kind of feels like you need to be making an adjustment. We talk about these kind of backs and forwards. We talk about making these adjustments, and really when you should be saying, now the timeout seems like it's warranted, but no one in a scenario like this, where finally Winthrop, you're saying they don't really have too much to discuss, quite frankly. Their defense has looked outstanding so far. We're the ones who can actually make an adjustment, make a switch up on a round like this to really hit things home. And I don't know if it's going to be aggression or if it's going to be utility, what it's going to come down to. But I know for a fact the way this game's gone is going to come down to first bloods.
Oh, it's been so important in this series so far, getting that advantage early. We saw Fisher do so towards the B side, then they would rotate over to A, then they would test their luck once again on that site, which is where they found a lot of their success. Have been hitting B a lot more recently. But first bloods have been a huge factor. It means that the rotates that get made from that B site over to A site will be less in number. They won't have to worry about a door control. They won't have to worry about heaven. It's just the players on site. But the issue in my mind, Dallas, is less so about first bloods and more so about not giving up space. Winthrop were the team that prowled through A lobby. They were the team that pressured down Cannon. And we've seen them test the limits multiple times, and we can see them doing it here. Look at Cannon on the left side. Look at Elbow. Their Jet and Viper were testing down towards B main, and they don't find anything, which can only mean one thing. It's A site, make the rotate through mid. They'll do so slowly to deny information and possibly an exit frag, and rely on the players on the objective to control the space, and Critical does so very well. First blood to their side. Gonchius fires too soon after only seeing the barrel to the edge of the cloud burst, and that may just be it. Winthrop in a 4v1. Javi by their lonesome is dusted by Nasi, who found two, and this round is over. This map is done, and Winthrop will win their map pick a breeze.
The fastest round of the entire game, quite frankly, which is just insanity to me. Obviously, as Fisher, you talk about trying to switch things up, looking at that space, looking for the time, trying to close things out as quick as possible, looking for a switch up here in the game. And the one thing we didn't expect was Fisher kind of going ahead and just flooring it on the gas pedal. Well, Winthrop was ready for that. They're the ones that matter the most. It doesn't matter what we see and don't see. We see everything through X-Ray Live. Winthrop doesn't have that luxury, and still was able to go ahead and adapt immediately and know that, well, I mean, we've hit the shots anyways. If they're swinging right into our crosshair and the spray just kind of works out, hey, we'll take it at 9. We'll take it every day of the week, quite frankly. So knowing that even then, the way that game worked out, I mean, Winthrop, they knew coming into this that, I mean, they kind of had a leg up. You saw the setups there. You saw the selection. The Yoru, I was a little bit questionable about coming into it. And I mean, it proved well with the dimensional drifts. Don't get me wrong. But when it came around to actually holding these things down, we saw Infiltrator with an operator on the Jet. It feels like, okay, this chick's in the game for a reason. Riot keeps nerfing her for a reason. They keep their eyes on her more than anybody else for a reason. And she does just a better job of taking that space when it's necessary. She does a better job of cutting off these sight lines when it's asked of her. And while sight, I mean, I'm not going to get in your head or anything. I don't want to mess with you because obviously you get a formula that works. But, I mean, when you're facing these squads and you're in this division, you got to kind of figure out what everybody else is doing and say, will this do just as well? Or can I consistently be the X factor to set myself apart to warrant that pick?
Yeah, Winthrop in the final few rounds kind of figured out a key plan that was starting to work against Fisher. It was really a back and forth battle like we saw in the first half and the second, where they found their key takeaway and they managed to hold on strong where they needed. And Fisher, you mentioned it, first blood was something they really wanted. I highlighted they rotate to A, they get that first, then they go to B, then they do the vice versa. They didn't do any of that. They no strong-armed any direction. They just got in and went for the plants, and that was their weakest strategy. It hadn't worked. It worked once out of the 5 times they attempted the sprint in on their attacks in that map. It just wasn't the working strategy. It wasn't going to work. You know, this 7th time's the charm, right? It's not successful. Find one of your working strategies that's worked 80% of the time, that's worked 70% of the time, even something that's worked 50% of the time, because that was less of a gamble than what you did in that last round, and they'll be paying the price now heading into map 2, which is their map pick, but is a must win. And they already had enough troubles peeking up onto 2 objectives, let alone 3. We'll have to see how it works out, but before that, let's take a break between these 2. We'll see you guys later. Welcome back, everybody. The NECC Game 1 is done. Or should I say map 1 is done. The game is all but just begun. It's map 2 now ready and ready to go. Fisher facing off against Winthrop, and Fisher, well, they met their maker. It wasn't their map pick, and they did force Winthrop over to overtime, but in this division, it doesn't matter what map is picked by who. Every single team knows every single map to the best of their ability, and if you don't, you're banning it, and they had every right to do so.
You got 2, 3 coaches for like every single team, it feels like here. You got analysts in the background. You got students who are radiant levels as well, going ahead being paid scholarships just to figure out who's getting picked more than somebody else on another team. It's insanity, and nobody really cares where the maps are really going, but except for us, because obviously we have a bias. Some maps are a little more interesting to watch, and I'll say that this is a little bit better to watch than Haven, because, well, it's got some quirky spaces towards it, but we got to get through one to get to the other. And quite frankly, it still has to be Fisher to win this one to still get to that last. And, well, after that first map, it seems like anything's likely at the end of the day. I mean, knowing that even then on Winthrop's map pick, Fisher's still taking him to double OT, anything's possible. But on a map like this where you mentioned earlier, I mean, the executions there weren't really present. Even then for Fisher, we talked about the rotations. I mean, we talked about that kind of halfway through that second half when they were on the attacking side. We mentioned it once again in the overtime when they were on the attacking side and had to go ahead and kind of really hit home, because that's all it came down to with how heavy hitting that defense was. And Haven, you said, quite frankly, if you can't hit 2 sites, how are you going to hit 3? If you can't decide on 2 sites and you can't really swap up between 2, maybe when there's 3, you're incentivized to kind of swap up a little bit more. We're not really sure how that's going to work out too much, but hey, we got an entire map ahead of us to figure it out.
All right, we'll cup over to a new screen after we check out the agents for just a moment. Winthrop, interesting decisions. It's about what you expect for this map. It is a mirror match between these 2 teams. What do you expect for a map like Haven? Raze, KJ, Omen, Silva, and Breach. It is the go-to, it is the standard, and it is that way for a reason. Anyone who tests otherwise thinks they know something, and I guarantee you they don't know nearly as much as the pro teams out there do with their coaches and their strategists and their tacticians. They may have an inkling that's best for their team, but it is not the end-all be-all best strategy. And sometimes your team just needs to meet and match to the meta that currently fits in and stays alive. Got over here, it's like I mentioned to another screen. Let's talk about our socials for a minute. Not every match is going to be as good as Winthrop versus Fisher, Dallas. Not every match is going to be in the Legends division to be the end-all be-all, best case scenario, most enjoyable matchup of all time. But if you want to relive this match for the NECC VODs, go to our NECC esports channel on YouTube. If you want to watch even more of the action, see clips, see posts, see updates, check out our Instagram, check out our X, check out our YouTube for everything, all things NECC. And make sure you can see everything that comes up at you, because Critical sure as heck is. Catches Psyche, who rotated through bid, in through Link, and even is able to scrape another one off the board before going down.
And that's all that really matters, right? Going ahead, looking for at least 2, making sure you go ahead and get yours +1, look for the numbers to work off the back of, and you've done exactly that. So Winthrop opened things up pretty aggressively there, able to go ahead and clean out with 3 players surviving at the end of it. I'm going to say if you're going to cash in debts, make sure to do it early on that first round, but hey, they got another plan in mind. They want to keep their bodies high die and thrive in at the end of the night. So already, once again, back-to-back, we're seeing these players come through, being heavy hitters, and even in that one player we mentioned, Critical, the heavy hitter of their own, finding 2 players in that last round. Says, I got enough to go ahead on the attacking side to get myself a Phantom as well. So, you know what? Why not? Let's invest and see not only what it can do in a round 2 like this, and we found a couple kills, especially kind of working up that distance we were playing with here. But better yet, if you can hold on to it, that's going to look gorgeous on round 3 to kind of really even the odds.
Playing through a lobby defensively, you don't need to play super far into the action. You can hold as far back as you can. So a lot of the times you test more so towards a long, but it's plenty fine to put a player down in short as well. The Nets Infiltrator and First Blood with that Marshall and Fisher now left to answer some questions on the opposing side as they transition towards C, but they left Spike noticeably absent back towards attacker spawn, which means this is truly just a poking attack and not something that is truly being initiated towards, as they have no spike whatsoever still and are still just rushing to the objective. I'm not sure what the attempt is here from Fisher, but it's definitely not working, as it looks like Winthrop will put up a flawless result in this second round, as only Rex Skater remains. Does finally get that spike, but look at the Marshall holding down long. Gets the flick through box as well. And round 2 is won and done flawlessly.
One of the attempts of all time, is I think.
That is one of them, yeah.
It is one of the attempts of all time.
And it'll be on our socials at NECC.
Didn't work out well for him, but I mean, hey, you're also looking at Nico, you know, just 2 sheriffs against the likes of a Phantom also being thrown in there into the mix, so you can't really beat yourself up too much about it. That Marshall's going to have to go ahead and carry some weight, I feel. It can be stationed up pretty aggressively. We already see it kind of anchoring itself over towards the A side. A lot of the members is across the board. You are trusting KJ. Renz, buddy, I will look to kind of get you, I'll give you a coupon to any, you know, massage salon of your choice if you were to go ahead and clutch this thing out and win it for your team, because that's a lot of weight on your shoulders to be carrying that entire half of the map. But hey, Infiltrator's getting his work done for him. He says, look, thanks for doing your job. I'm going to do mine. Couple kills there towards A main. You keep the Steven numbers there onto that side of the map. And, well, it just really comes down to who can really execute off of it. Because, well, A's now completely open. You face 4 members of the team of Winthrop, and it comes down to Renz alone who can kind of carry out the will of anybody else. So, not the best gun to play with. There was a Vandal, there's a Phantom on your side, but problem is, as a presented once again over towards that A side and didn't really find the effect they wanted.
A lot of times you may question, do you save up for round 3? No. You got flawlessly in round 2. You have the money. You're not really that concerned with it. It's just about damaging Fisher as best as you can, and unfortunately, it just didn't work out for Ren. Wasn't the best case scenario. I won't say pitiful, but a very limp attempt in through A short for multiple players in that round from the defense of Winthrop. Infiltrator had a great 2 kills with the Marshall, but it felt like I called it the strong arm and the soft arm from the previous thing. They're working one side too much over the other, and it just isn't compensating the way it should, right? It needs to be a double push. It needs to be effective from both ends. And Winthrop just came up short on short where they needed to be, and they're gonna have to think about that as they head into round 4. Well, they'll have proper rifles. This will be the first true testament of rifle on rifle we'll see in this map. And if it was anything like our first series of the day, an operator could be a huge point of contention. 2 in a row for Infiltrator, Dallas. Yeah, it is, apparently.
A rifle and rifle round? Is it?
Yeah.
Because I'm not seeing any rifles get killed.
Semi-auto.
I'm not seeing any rifle kills so far. Maybe bolt action, I'll give it to you. But Infiltrator has been anything but a rifle so far. Dude has been running lever action, you know, bolt action. He's all action. No rifles at all. And closing out a 4K for the round. Give this man a line up. It doesn't matter what it is, so long as it can scope in. He's going to hit a couple of those shots.
I want to point out something that I don't think I've ever seen. I think I've seen it maybe once before, but now it's happened twice. A 2K in round 2, a 3K in round 3, and a 4K in round 4. And the same thing happened on our first map. Oh my goodness, what are the chances of this to occur? But it has. And now you got a 3-1 start for Winthrop University, which is expected when they force out for the operator, but that puts the chances of this round for Fisher even more buried as they're coming in with stingers and sheriffs and hoping it'll save the day.
Well, can we save the day? I don't know. I mean, you'll need a hero, and well, I don't know. It's like maybe you need that hero. Switching things up, not being on that Yoru anymore, kind of playing that jet now, so I'm going to go ahead and get a player and a half, I'd say, with the damage that was being done, and Nation there, kind of Onasi, excuse me, for a good exchange, I'd say. That's a nice way to kind of go at things, but Fisher, deal with an eco round, can't really freak out about it. And you've already done some pretty good damage for it being an eco. So already 2 players knocked down. Looking at the rotation, I'm liking this so far. At least just kind of keep them on their toes. Stretch them across the map. And get them in these scenarios where you got to think about where the next move is coming from and just kind of make them regret pushing things right out. I mean, we haven't really seen, once again, that kind of full rotational ideology come through just yet for Fisher, but still, the commitments have been a little bit better, I'd say. You have more entries onto a site, you have more kind of ways to stretch out your approach across the map, and we have seen that being flexed a little bit. But still, Winthrop, if you hit things in a certain direction, or even better yet, you find out these certain angles that you're going for, and you're running into Infiltrator, that's the biggest problem. And we're going to see it once again to where the guy's lining up on A main. That's going to be unfortunate if you really go ahead and line up in this guy's crossing.
Hunter's Fury goes out and Critical has the information behind it. An Infiltrator even further above and beyond. And they even got a second flick into Conches. Fisher, they are mad. This was the round they needed. They wanted to start off on strong footing, and it has just fallen completely off the bad end. But that's where Momiji steps up to the plate, sends a homer, and 2 find themselves at the wrong end of the doomstick that is the Vandal in Momiji's hands. And with the information gathered on the opposing side over towards Cubby, this would be an easy spot for a play to move up towards Heaven. Critical could swing out here. Gun barrel may have been spotted, and with that recon bolt going out, they know for a fact he's there. Psych will have to try to find an angle that will be unexpected. With only 11 HP, you're asking a whole lot, and that will be a whole little. Instead, Momiji, a 1v3, gets their third, but it's too much to overcome. Winthrop take a 5th round now to their name, and they're gonna have to go pick up that operator because that's job over towards short.
Yeah, I mean, you can flick left or right, I mean, all day, but when you're having to also look above you at the same time, I mean, you got to choose one or the other, and there's just too much to go ahead and deal with. So, I mean, considering how they played the numbers, Winthrop, knowing exactly what they're dishing out, just playing that round to a T once they kind of go ahead and look for the next map, you see the way they're playing this thing. They are feeling themselves, already hitting it at 5-1 stride for this entire game so far. It's huge, and each of their kind of round wins continuing to streak. First one, we can't really beat them up too much for, because, I mean, it was the pistol round, the bonus after, you're expecting the 3rd round loss, but every single round since then, you're saying it's free game. I mean, we don't really talk about the pistols anymore. You can subtract it, and it's still sitting 3-1 across the board, and that's an impressive split considering what we saw in that last map so far. Winthrop, obviously, sure, this is Fisher's pick, but it seems like anything but so far until finally, Psych seems like he has a wake-up moment.
The Bladestorm about the only thing Fisher have they can really rely on for this objective push. Comes up big with 2 kills. Bulldog from Javi, 1 for 1, 1 and done it seems. As Gucci gets the run back. The Rolling Thunder, you highlighted it and it comes true. Critical despite the stun with only a stinger. Comes away with the kill seconds. What is going on, Winthrop and Fisher? How can you give up a round when you have everything starting and ending in your favor to the final few moments? Winthrop, Winthrop, Winthrop. They'll be seeing that name in their nightmares.
I mean, to be fair, they were going in that round not with the best eco anyway. So, I mean, they were looking for something to work out there and still found, I'd say, a really good result for what they were working with off the get-go. But knowing that still, it's that close to success, you invest a Rolling Thunder. Whenever you see that kind of 2v2 be lost out because of a stinger, that one, no pun intended, that stinks. I mean, that hurts. You hate to see that. It's infuriating, quite frankly. That's the only way you can really put it. And honestly, Psych, he's the one who's the most mad at it all. Breaking out an operator of his own. So maybe I can match Infiltrator. You know, I also, too, think I can swing on somebody who already has an angle.
I also think I'm better than Ye.
Like, it's just, it's those things where it's like, man, I mean, I like to think he's thinking, and maybe he is, but we got to see really how that matchup goes because, man, I love to see the fight between those two. So long as you know that he's already holding those angles, I think you're sitting fine. And the Owl drone was going ahead and being used for a scenario like that. Problem is, you're investing a lot just for main control. I mean, look at this. Owl drone, recon dart. You have nothing to get on site besides flashes, and there's a crate covering you and your target if you're on the defensive side.
Sometimes you have the thought process of, you know, cooking up something in the kitchen, Dallas, setting everything up yourself, doing all the processes and having a fantastic dish at the end of the day to devour upon. Sometimes you gotta let the pizza delivery people do their work as well. They gotta make the dough, they gotta make the pizza, they gotta deliver it to you. The end result is the same. You get to enjoy food in your home successfully. You gotta pray that'll be enough. Nano Swarm on the ground. Is that an attempt to try to clear out the KJ on the other end?
Didn't make it though.
It's just Fisher. They had too much confidence in the fact they could do that.
Oh
It's 2 players detained. This is a horrid spot to be in. Momentum almost gets their gun back out, but Psych is the only saving grace. 11 seconds left though, and Psych has no time to get anything done. Operator out will not matter. And Winthrop can pick up either the opposite would drop. What a round.
I mean, an attempt. What an attempt. That's really chicken dwindling down to.
Is that only a single nano swarm needed for that, or is it required 2 now?
No, so the aftershock already went through, and that's 160 naturally. Yeah, because it changed to a 2 burst, and even then it's still only done 150 just because of the pre-patch. You can't do that off an aftershock purely because of the buff that came through to the lockdown. Yeah, those were the days for breach mains, right? But rather than actually just nerfing breach and making every single wall just a jump scare where your retinas are just stressed past that point. Instead, they say, you know what, let's just make other utility a lot more efficient. And that KJ lockdown, if you don't actually rush it or if you don't have a Hunter's Fury, that thing is not going down. And I like the attempt. I was getting ready to scream. My lungs were filled with the air to go ahead and just kind of freak out. Problem is, it didn't go through, didn't have the range behind it, and you don't have the numbers here because you've already lost 1.
Fisher on their map pick, might I add. Looking at a very possible 8-1, especially with Reigns getting now 3 in a row. Gucci does not want to give up the ace. It'll be Reigns with the 4K. And a flawless for Winthrop. There's not much to highlight truly here. This is just Fisher. Lambs led to slaughter. They are being led on a leash. They try to funnel in behind each other to try to set something up. They even had Psyche with a rifle. They were going big in the previous rounds. They're the player that was getting the most credits for kills, right? They gave him something. They try to let him cook. And like I said, again, sometimes you got to let other people do the work. Your 4 teammates more specifically. So you can all have the big dinner together and your big siesta or whatever the heck you want to do. Big buffet for Thanksgiving, which is coming up, you know. And unfortunately, it just hasn't really been the case for Fisher whatsoever. No one can cook. It's all turning into burnt food, and nobody likes to eat a very burnt dinner.
Hello? Infiltrator, you saw 3 in the air like doves. You could have been shooting clay birds. Still, you won the round.
Keep this man out of the Olympics.
Like, hello? We can tell these are not Southerners on our hands because trust, I was on the range at 5 doing things like that, and I trust I can't do it on a computer, but I mean, still.
Yeah. I realize a different issue.
Yeah, I mean, you're the one who's trained for this situation, and still, quite frankly, something kind of slips you up. Regardless, though, end of the day, Winthrop once again another round to go with. 9-1 here for the half. I mean, this is not something I was expecting in the slightest. I mean, there's not really too much we can kind of elaborate on. This is just Winthrop hitting their strides here. This is one of the maps that, I mean, they knew that they were going to be playing. Infiltrator, once again, ready with the lineup, saying, I'm going to fill in here. I got the operator ready to go. Knowing that all I got to do is just fill the shoes as somebody who holds an angle. No problemo. And Winthrop showing their prowess again and again and again, saying, look, we've been a team for a long time in Valorant, and quite frankly, with this being one of the earliest maps in the game, we should know it like the back of our hand.
They look like they do, Dallas. There's no and, if, or buts about it. This is Winthrop in a very dominating position, taking it to Fisher. And Fisher need to come up with an answer, and they just haven't found the solution yet. Ren's refragging Gucci's death to Momiji.
Time!
And a huge lineup for Xcater. 3 kills in the round, 2 to save Grace and Fisher. They will, in fact, have a shot here, Dallas, to go 9-3 at halftime. And you talk about it, 3 is the minimum you need at halftime. Yep. And I think that holds true even for the best of the best, because you're still facing the best of the best, and Winthrop have the major lead here.
We haven't seen a timeout so far, right? I think, honestly, this will be the time to go for it, being you haven't used it yet. You still got opportunities. I mean, because let's be real. Winthrop isn't changing anything.
Yeah.
I mean, what are they going to do?
Who's fixing the Betty Crocker recipe, right? They're delicious meals for a reason, right? If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
But, I mean, Fisher's the one who can actually make the improvements, but they just didn't look for the time to be taking it. Instead, still, switch up being made, critical able to go ahead and get a kill with that judge in hand, and still nobody swinging the guy. No exchanges being made. And, well, you're just working off the back of numbers. Infiltrator wasn't able to hit that shot with the operator. I know, surprise, surprise. I'm genuinely shocked a little bit. But if that guy stays alive, he has another chance, and he's just not going to miss twice.
Playing up either side. Yes, when you have a crossfire, it's very dangerous to extend into it, and they do an even better job. No one forfeits a life for the side of Winthrop just yet, and to make matters worse, Critical, despite the fact a Hunter's Fury is going out, it's not a Sova kill at the Hunter's Fury, it's the opposite Sova with a Phantom to get the kill, and it's a flawless 12th and final round of this half, and it goes a 10-2 halftime scoreline for Winthrop. And the problems for Fisher just keep adding up. I mentioned it to us. I thought they were going to have problems on 3-map objective because they only peek one site, but they couldn't even find success on the one site, and they tried everything, and it still came up short.
Well, because you're going downriver at that point, is what it looks like. That's what Fisher does. And down the river, you have a waterfall waiting for you. And that's Infiltrator. He's the big bed of rocks at the bottom ready to hit you. And, we just saw it. Every single time you kind of go downriver and you see that funnel going through, there is no turning back. Not because you're denied it. You're able to get off and kind of walk towards the bank at any point and just take a rest and, go somewhere else with your business. But Fisher, they buy into it. They buy it too, but the shack at the very top and say, no, we're full committing every single time. And even with warnings and signs about all over the place, posted, warning, danger, it seems like they're just taking a nap. Like it's a lazy river. Like they're just going ahead and cruising down. And they just didn't learn their lesson. They didn't learn it on Breeze. They didn't learn the attacking side of this map. And, well, now Winthrop, they says, oh, he's going to win 3? Please. It's those
That's
points
what Fisher thought in the first half, though.
Exactly. It's, come on, man.
They're cursing their ear. You just gotta win 3. Because, we just gotta win 3? That's easier said than done, apparently, for certain rosters. But Winthrop have been a beautiful team when it comes to the organization they have on their pistol rounds. And giving them a 10-2, where they've won every pistol so far in this series, could be the ultimate undoing of this roster. Javi, up for first blood, doesn't last long. 2 trades in, and Winthrop's attack comes up big. 3 players left against the lonesome Gaunches. And you've got to ask for Fisher. Is an 11-2 comebackable? Is a 12-2 comebackable? And it's already on the line. I think you have to buy for this next round.
Oh, no, they're so buy.
You have to. A 9-3, you can get away with not buying for the second. In fact, I would dare say don't.
I know, I give it 2 in a row. Trust.
I'll give a match point.
We'll sandbag this one and we'll run it back.
This is yeah.
GG,
Fisher.
Infinite Rees. It's all good. It's all good.
Map 3, that's ours, guys. It's not a best of 5 series, Fisher. You guys need to buy up. This passivity is going to go unpunished because it goes from only needing to win 3.5 talents to only needing to win 1.
Yeah.
In 12 rounds.
And you still got Vandal, you got a Guardian, you got this is almost a rifle round for Winthrop. They don't care. So guess what? If they do win this round, once again, they just go ahead and force it again. They play it out and say, look, it's just another rifle round at the back of it because what's Fisher going to be able to buy? Absolutely nothing. It's one of those really dire circumstances, and even at a league like this with the money and the kind of stance you found so far, the one thing you can't do is push close angles. That's going to be their favorite. That's going to be their favoritism. That's going to be the angles they're holding. I would have said C would have been your best shot, or A, just kind of play out towards main, but instead they're pushing B, the one place where Fisher can win the round, and they're doing that.
It's a good spot. Defensively are holding on strong. Winthrop. Spike is ready to go down, but they've just been feeling that danger that Fisher are proving towards them. And they need to be very confident about this hold. Another dark cover goes out for the side of Fisher. They're still waiting for it to dissipate. Martial shot rings the other end. Stinger in hand. You've got to pressure this player, and Critical does this well. Psych gives away some information, does get some back from Critical to hip fire, trading for a Stinger and force for the reload. 1v1. This could spell the ultimate in for Fisher, and if they have just done so, Critical with their 3rd kill in the round, saving graces for Winthrop, and that may have just punched their ticket in for a win 2-0 against Fisher.
I mean, maybe there's still time, there's still money, there's still potential here, but I mean, there's not very much of it. Considering that, I mean, we talked about the win streak that's going underway, 2 rounds. Winthrop's going to force out whatever they can, and even then, you see one player that kind of still has some resources to work off the back of it. So knowing that that's going to be Infiltrator, that's the full armor you're playing off of. That's the one player that needs the armor more than anybody else. And against the likes of no real guns on the side of Fisher Ultra, this could be, as you mentioned, that ticket. And quite frankly, I think it's laminated. It's already set in stone. I mean, you're not really messing with it too much, and I think it's going to be punched through.
13-2, very possible here for Winthrop, but you can tell they still want to play this round to their utmost capabilities. So they're not just rushing a site, they're not just running in, because giving any chance to Fisher is asking for Fisher to pull off the impossible. You ever on Twitter, Dallas? Ever on X? You should follow the NECC esports socials, as well as Dallas, only Dallas. You know that Fisher is the team everyone talks about. They have the biggest social media presence. They talk constantly. Even if Winthrop know they can beat them and have beaten them before, there's always the big question: what have they been working on? What have they been cooking? And apparently not much in the map of Haven, despite them picking it up, because Winthrop are up 12-2. They get some information on the A set, they'll rotate to C, and it looks like they'll go down C long, which is dangerous.
There we go.
But at least they get onto site, right?
So long as you get on site and you break that barrier, you get the info off, you know you have free entry on the site, you're good. You're just playing lineups at that point. And even then, if you don't even get the opportunity, I mean, no big deal. I'm surprised nobody pushed it off the back of that. No players were lost, meaning no players even really attempted. They went halfway down. They were at the gates and just said, nah, we'll go home. Which I'm surprised they're even doing that when they kind of have a surefire round. Fisher didn't even do that when it didn't work.
Plant on the A site and Winthrop. Quite literally, the spike, the proverbial nail in the coffin for Fisher.
Hey, we'll show you guys how to rotate. There's one last round in the game. We'll show you.
Do it. Javi does get a good blood here for Fisher, though, and that could set things up. The judge round down through the bottom, Psych in through, second kill. But it's not enough, and Renz will secure the 13th round where needed, picking up the final 2 kills. And that's what you're looking for, right? That's
You guys don't know how to rotate? We'll show you. There's one last round in the game. We'll make sure this rerun, faces later on the season. Watch that round. Figure it out. Press S.
Watch back that map, actually, which is about as short as a round, it seems like. But watch back that map, for sure. You guys need a lot of blood reviewing for that position. Because that map was Winthrop's. They just... did they bait you into picking that map for your map selection?
The map selections are very complicated. And
yeah, I don't disagree.
It's insane how so many teams they can... if you master the map selection, your series already feels like it's favoring you going into it immediately. So where if you kind of find these picks and you get to a circumstance where you're saying, look, I mean, this isn't even our first pick, or better yet, this is our first pick. We're going to pick our second best map, and then with what's left, we feel comfortable, and the other team is forced to pick our best, or even then they're knocking out maybe our best, but we're going to our third, and still out of 7 maps. That's still your upper 50% right there. I think, quite frankly, it was just kind of playing the keys perfectly. All of the cards were in your hand for Winthrop there, and they just worked it out. The Breeze that they picked didn't seem all that strong. So maybe it wasn't their primary selection. Maybe it's not their best map, and Haven is. And then you just see it going their way and say, boom, you fell right into our trap. And that's what it looked like, honestly, through and through.
If you get through the first 2 bans in a map ban selection, Dallas, and you go, okay, there are 3 maps here we are exceptionally comfortable with. No matter what, we are so confident we can win it. We don't need to worry about it. And there's 2 we aren't. We're comfortable, but they're not the best, the end-all be-all, like you said. I'm picking one of the not the best, right? Because that almost guarantees a game of statistics, but that almost guarantees that you've got a 3-1, you've got a 75% chance that the rest of the 2 maps are going to be ones that you have utmost confidence in. I take that risk. As a coach, as a player, a leader, it's absolutely what I would do. I'd put the risk on the board. Instead of just going 50% and getting it, I'd rather the last 2, the comfortable 2, be the one to do so. And it's something that I think kind of happened in our map ban selection for this series. And Winthrop just, they win it. They wanted map bans. They had a very rough map 1. I don't think it was a big enough win for them to scream out and say that the Menta was torn and chalked from Fisher.
Exactly.
No, it literally just is this map was played so wonderful by Winthrop in the early rounds that we saw come out from the operator, from your jet, from the just amazing potential that was brewing up, right? You have all this energy that is ready to be exploded upon, and instead of just saying, okay, fall back, we're just really, holding on to that for another round, they send it out early, and it pays so much. Yeah, it was just a beautiful round for them. And speaking of beautiful, we want to relive the moments from this series. You can go ahead and follow our socials. We'll throw that up for you guys so you can actually see what the socials are, so you don't just have to listen to us say it. That doesn't even say what the socials are. That doesn't even have the thing for it. So this is still just the same as me saying it. We gotta actually put the ad on there at some point. NECC Esports is what I believe it to be. So there you go. NECC Esports on YouTube.
Or them.
There it is. You can see it. NECC_esports in the back, really blurred out. And I can also see me in the top right. That is a clip from, I think, Overwatch. Because I think that next to me, oh, I know, that may be Binks from R6. I always point that every time that goes out. I'm trying to remember what it is. It's an old clip. When you talk about old, I sometimes go back and get, clips for VODs and for reels and whatnot that I make. We got everything from 3 years ago to now. And you can rewatch and relive every moment that's been live here on NECC. And for Fisher, they're going to want that. They're going to want to go check out the NECC website. They're going to look at what happened here for this map. Our commentary may not be useful for them because, their gameplay wasn't useful for them either. They're going to want to look at what happened and what went so wrong before they head out of this one. Any final words, Stas, before we send on out of the series?
Not really. Obviously, I want to see more series like these over the course of the season. I'm excited to see where it goes, and even more so to kind of see what the Legends division looks like at the course of the end of the season. Because, we still got big hitters here. Winthrop, obviously, now going 3-1. Northwood, I'm not really sure what they're sitting at, but it's probably looking really good. So, we'll just kind of go ahead, see how things pan out over the course of the season. And obviously, good luck to everybody there.
Yeah. We'll see you guys for the next series. It's a new set of casters, a new set of teams, but still a wonderful matchup to come forward. See you soon.